Welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches on Channels Television, a program that takes you around the globe in 30 minutes. I'm Anne Nwawadu. We begin today with the China-Africa Union agreement to start the first phase construction of the Africa Centers for Disease Control. The AU has promised to work with China to ensure the objective turns reality.
Also have media friends.
The signing ceremony of the agreement to start the first phase construction of the headquarters of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, aided by China, was held on Monday. Chinese Vice Minister of Commerce Qin Keming and African Union AU Commissioner of Social Affairs Amira El Fadil signed the agreement via video link.
May I also seize this opportunity to express the admiration of the African Union Commission to the government of the People's Republic of China for the successful tackling and controlling of the coronavirus in China in the shortest possible time.
The Africa CDC is headquartered in Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, with the first phase construction covering an area of 23,244 square meters. The headquarters will consist of 2 office buildings and 2 laboratory buildings, housing offices, an emergency center, an information center, a laboratory, among others. In her address to the conference, El Fadil congratulated China on controlling the COVID-19 pandemic and said the AU will work with China to complete the project at an early date. She appreciated China's help to Africa in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic and wished the solidarity between China and Africa continues.
We appreciate that China is supporting us from the beginning, even before COVID-19. Africa have been receiving support from China in the establishment of Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention. There is a technical and financial support. There is experts from China supporting us. There is China CDC supporting Africa CDC. So we do appreciate very much this solidarity between China and Africa, and we want this solidarity to continue.
The United States has been advised to promote bilateral scientific cooperation with China rather than defaming the country. According to the China ministry spokesman, the U.S. has a record of spying other nations on a global scale.
China hopes the U.S. will promote the scientific cooperation between the 2 countries instead of defaming Chinese scientists with made-up accusations, according to Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin on Tuesday. Mr. Wang made the remarks in response to the report recently released by the U.S. National Institute of Health about foreign influences on research integrity, which shows among the 189 investigated scientists, most of which the U.S. side claimed to have potential ties with China, and 7 have the problem of undisclosed foreign patent.
For a period of time, some people in the U.S. are generalizing the concept of national security and making up the so-called crime of intellectual property theft to defame Chinese scientists and students in the United States. China has reiterated its solemn position in this regard. Now, with the release of the investigation result, we are wondering how the U.S. will respond to it. In a time of globalization, the flow of talent among different countries has promoted the advance of technology and economy around the world. We hope the U.S. side will listen to the rationale and objective advice from the U.S. scientific and technological circles, respect the fact and conform to the universal law and trends of the times to conduct international scientific and technological cooperation, making more efforts to boost China-U.S. exchanges and cooperation in science and technology instead of the other way around.
He hopes the U.S. side could respect the fact, listen to the objective and rational advice of U.S. scientists, and follow the trend of the times.
The introduction of a national security law for the former British colony has caused the United Kingdom to announce a suspension of its extradition treaty with Hong Kong. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has also reacted to that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Britain announced earlier this week that it will suspend its extradition treaty with Hong Kong in an escalation of its disputes with China over the introduction of a national security law for the former British colony.
on the 1st of July announced that we are developing a bespoke immigration route for British nationals overseas and their dependents, giving them a path to citizenship in the UK. And I can update the House that the Home Secretary will set out further details on the plans for a new bespoke immigration route for BNOs and their dependents before recess. This bespoke route will be ready by early 2021. In the meantime, the Home Secretary has already given Border Force officers the ability to grant leave to BNOs and their accompanying dependents at the UK border. Mr. Speaker, beyond our offer to BNOs, today we are taking two further measures, which are a necessary and proportionate response to this new national security legislation, which we've now had the opportunity to assess very carefully. First, given the role China has now assumed for the internal security of Hong Kong and the authority it's exerting over law enforcement, the UK will extend to Hong Kong the arms embargo that we've applied to mainland China since 1989. To be clear, the extension of this embargo will mean there'll be no exports from the UK to Hong Kong of potentially lethal weapons, their components or ammunition. And it will also mean a ban on the export of any equipment not already banned, which might be used for internal repression, such as shackles, intercept equipment, firearms and smoke grenades.
Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab told Parliament the extradition treaty will be suspended immediately and an arms embargo will be extended to Hong Kong.
So I have consulted with the Home Secretary, the Justice Secretary and the Attorney General, and the government has decided to suspend the extradition treaty immediately and indefinitely. And I should also tell the House that we would not consider reactivating those arrangements unless and until there are clear and robust safeguards which are able to prevent extradition from the UK being misused under the new national security legislation.
The ban is another nail in the coffin of what then Prime Minister David Cameron in 2015 cast as a golden era of ties with China, the world's second largest economy.
Mr. Speaker, there remains considerable uncertainty about the way in which the new national security law will be enforced. I would just say this: the United Kingdom is watching and the whole world is watching.
London has been dismayed by a crackdown in Hong Kong, which returned to Chinese rule in 1997, and the perception that China did not tell the whole truth over the coronavirus outbreak.
The specific measures I've announced today are a reasonable and proportionate response to China's failure to live up to those international obligations with respect to Hong Kong. And I commend this statement to the House.
Australia and Canada suspended extradition treaties with Hong Kong earlier this month. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has cited concerns over the new national security laws imposed on the former British colony by Beijing.
Let's be very clear, there is a balance here, and I'm not going to be sort of pushed into a position of becoming a knee-jerk Sinophobe on every issue, somebody who is automatically anti-China. But we do have serious concerns. We have concerns about the treatment of the Uyghur minority, obviously about the human rights abuses. We obviously have concerns about what's happening in Hong Kong, and you'll be hearing a bit later on from the Foreign Secretary about how we're going to change our extradition arrangements to reflect our concerns about what's happening with the security law in Hong Kong. We have to think about the human rights, the rights of the people of Hong Kong to participate in democratic processes, and people here from Hong Kong, and how those changes affect them. What we won't do, as I say, is completely abandon our policy of engagement with China. China is a giant fact of geopolitics. It's going to be a giant factor in our lives, in the lives of our children and our grandchildren. So we've got to have a calibrated response, and we're going to be tough on some things, but also going to continue to engage.
Meanwhile, China has asked the United Kingdom to tread with caution, warning that the UK is taking the wrong path in Hong Kong affairs. Take a look.
China has urged Britain to avoid making further steps down the wrong path after reports that it was poised to suspend an extradition treaty for China-ruled Hong Kong. Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin made the remarks during a daily media briefing, adding that China would react resolutely to actions that interfere in China's internal affairs.
The recent erroneous remarks and actions made by the UK regarding Hong Kong seriously violate the international laws and the basic norms governing international relations and grossly interfere in China's internal affairs. China strongly condemns this and firmly opposes it. We urge the UK not to make further steps down the wrong path in order to avoid more damage to the bilateral relations. I would also like to add that China will make resolute reaction to actions that interfere in China's internal affairs. The relevant remarks made by the UK are totally rumors and slander. China has repeatedly addressed its position on the Xinjiang issue. The Xinjiang issue is not about human rights, religions or ethnic groups at all. It is about combating violence, anti-terrorism and anti-separatism.
Mr. Wang dismissed as rumours and slander British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab's comments that it was clear the Uyghur minority in China had suffered abuses of their human rights.
We are opposed to the violation of market rules, the principle of fair competition and the exclusion of certain enterprises from certain countries without the basis of facts and concrete evidence, as well as the crackdown on foreign companies for unjustified reasons and blocking cooperation. This will only damage its own interests and credibility and impede the progress of all mankind.
Economy experts have hailed the economic recovery, saying that it will aid global recovery and it's a positive sign, especially with the negative effects COVID-19 has left globally.
The growth, the 3.2%.
Foreign scholars and an official hailed China's economic recovery, saying how it has brought confidence and created opportunities for the global economy. Data released by China's National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) on July 16 showed that China's grassroots domestic product (GDP) expanded 3.2% year-on-year from April to June. Foreign scholars view this as a positive sign for China and the whole world.
The growth, the 3.2% growth, it's a very positive signal, not only for China but also for the region, for the ASEAN countries. Because China is the economic powerhouse in the region, and all other economies which are hit by the COVID-19 can hopefully benefit from China's growth. But not just China, but also the other parts of the world. Hopefully, this sends a positive signal and re-rams the economy also here in Europe. I think we should also look at the consumption. I think here China can still do some, has still room for improvement, which should show even a more healthy recovery as we see now. And I think also this is a moment of an opportunity between brown and green growth. And I think this China should also utilize that opportunity to impose structural changes to become more resilient for the future.
The latest Chinese economic growth data show that Chinese consumers are confident in the market, which will also bring more orders to other countries, which are ready to resume work and production. The increase of demand in the Chinese market is very positive for Latin American countries. The secret of China's rapid economic recovery is the same as China's rapid containment of the epidemic. First of all, the government has a strong sense of discipline. Second, the government has a strong leadership to coordinate and mobilize the whole nation and Chinese enterprises to quickly get back to work and production.
Another scholar and an official said that China has managed to contain the COVID-19 outbreak while maintaining its economic growth in a coordinated way and has achieved remarkable results. This has provided a driving force for global economic growth.
China has shown us now how governability and how coherence between government and social measures are paying off, in the terms that they have grown 3.2% this second quarter. So this is a surprise, but a very good surprise for not only for China, but for the world. There is no doubt that the Chinese economy is going to be the economy that will pull other economies to recover faster and better. Even though we are in this scenario of pandemic, the agreements that we started with China before are still going forward. So in cases like Colombia, it's very important, this opportunity that the growth of Chinese economy is given to the growth of Colombian economy.
You're still watching Foreign Dispatches on Channels Television. Let's head to the United States now, where the U.S. Attorney General William Barr has denied accusations that he abused his power to help President Donald Trump boost his re-election hopes.
U.S. Attorney General William Barr on Tuesday, July 28th, defended himself in front of a Democratic-led House of Representatives committee, denying accusations that he abused his power to help President Donald Trump's associates and boost President Trump's re-election hopes. The House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerrold Nadler opened the hearing with scathing remarks.
Your tenure has been marked by a persistent war against the department's professional corps in an apparent attempt to secure favors for the president.
Indeed, it's precisely because I feel complete freedom to do what I think is right that induced me to serve once again as Attorney General.
Attorney General Barr rejected a claim by Nadler that an operation to deploy federal agents to U.S. cities, particularly Portland, Oregon, was an effort to boost Trump's re-election campaign. Barr said he'd not taken actions to help Trump's associates, saying they do not deserve special breaks, but also should not be treated more harshly than other defendants.
Can you commit today that the department will not use federal law enforcement as a prop in the president's re-election campaign?
We are not using
I just want to
federal law
close with this thought.
The hearing marks Barr's first testimony before the House Judiciary Committee since he took office in February 2019, and comes as the Justice Department faces criticism for sending federal officers to forcibly disperse protesters in Portland, Oregon, and Washington, D.C.
I agree the president's friends don't deserve special breaks, but they also don't deserve to be treated more harshly than other people. And sometimes that's a difficult decision to make, especially when you know you're going to be castigated for it.
The department's internal watchdog launched probes last week into federal involvement in both those cases. The United States has seen weeks of widespread, mostly peaceful protest against racial bias and police violence following George Floyd's death in the custody of Minneapolis police in May. Barr has highlighted the arson and violence that have broken out at some protests, blaming them primarily on far-left Antifa elements and urging federal prosecutors to bring criminal charges whenever possible. He defended the use of federal law enforcement to quell the protests in Portland, where some protesters have thrown objects at the federal courthouse.
What unfolds nightly around the courthouse cannot reasonably be called protest. It is, by any objective measure, an assault on the government of the United States.
In his testimony, he also downplayed accusations about systemic discrimination in policing across the country, saying it will be an oversimplification to treat the problem as rooted in some deep-seated racism. The House Judiciary Committee launched a broad inquiry last month into whether the Justice Department had become overly politicized.
The threat to black lives posed by crime on the streets is massively greater than any threat posed by police misconduct. The president has not attempted to interfere in these decisions. On the contrary, he has told me from the start that he expects me to exercise my independent judgment to make whatever call I think is right, and that is precisely what I've done.
The inquiry came after Barr intervened in several high-profile criminal cases involving people close to President Trump. In February, he moved to scale back the Justice Department's sentencing recommendation for President Trump's longtime friend, Roger Stone, prompting 4 career prosecutors to withdraw. In May, Barr sought to drop the criminal charge against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, setting the stage for an ongoing legal battle with a federal judge who was due to sentence Flynn, who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. In his testimony, he insisted that President Trump has not attempted to interfere in these decisions. In June, he ousted the top federal prosecutor in Manhattan, Jeffrey Berman, while that office was investigating President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
Russia says that it has no plan to revive participation in activities of the G7, insisting the G7 lacks global significance. Take a look.
Russia has no plan to rejoin the Group of 7, given its satisfaction with the Group of 20. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that President Vladimir Putin had neither put forward any initiatives nor made any requests or any action to revive Russian participation in G7. He made the remarks in response to a statement of German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas, who said on Monday that Germany had rejected a proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump to invite Russia back to the G7 group. Peskov stressed that Russia is very satisfied with the G20's effectiveness because the group probably better meets modern economic realities from the point of view of economic development centers in the world. The spokesman also said that the G7 lacks global significance because it excludes China, India, Brazil, Turkey, and other countries. On the same day, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, said on his social media platform that the old Group of 8 G7 with Russia in it is an obsolete platform for Russia, and it's unnecessary for Russia to return to it. He said nothing can be discussed without having China or other countries at the table as the world is undergoing profound changes. He says considering the existence of the G20 and other international frameworks, the G7 value is highly dubious. Russia was part of the G8 along with Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the US, but its membership was terminated over Crimea in 2014. Last month, President Trump expressed his intention to expand the G7 to invite leaders of Russia, India, Australia, and South Korea to the annual summit, which is postponed until September.
We continue now with latest development on the coronavirus outbreak. The World Health Organization says the world must be very careful with the trend the virus is taking, insisting that vigilance must be the watchword.
The World Health Organization on Tuesday, July 28th, warned against complacency about new coronavirus transmission in the Northern Hemisphere summer, saying that this virus did not behave like influenza that tended to follow seasonal trends.
People are still thinking about seasons. What we all need to get our heads around is this is a new virus and it's behaving, even though it's a respiratory virus, and even though respiratory viruses in the past did tend to do this, different seasonal waves, this one is behaving differently. This one is one we have to be aware is learning about us as we're learning about it.
She urged vigilance in applying measures to slow transmission that is spreading via mass gatherings. She also warned against the thinking in terms of virus waves, saying it's going to be one big wave. It's going to go up and down a bit. The best thing is to flatten it and turn it into just something lapping at your feet.
Is it food or a face mask? Let's check out a restaurant in India finding creative ways to preach safety to its customers by turning a popular dish into shapes of face masks.
A restaurant in India has found a creative way of promoting health and safety by turning one of its most popular dishes into the shape of a face mask. This restaurant is getting creative, combining one of its most popular dishes with a health and safety message by making mask-shaped parota.
This item is a huge hit among children, and we also get online orders for masked parota. The aim behind introducing this is to create awareness among people to wear masks, as many people are still reluctant.
Parota is a layered flatbread usually accompanying meat and vegetable dishes and is a staple food in southern India.
And that's Foreign Dispatches today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that you can keep up with our top stories on channelstv.com. I'll see you again very soon, but please stay safe. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Thanks for watching.